you find the wisdom, then you find the strength, then you find the power, then you find the peace of mind.
Yeah.
And that will help you to be more genuine, more authentic, and say, no, you don't do this with me.
Can you maybe walk me through the process of reinventing yourself after you decided that you're going to close the company? Being authentic became an important value for you. How did you reinvent yourself, and why did you decide to work for the European institutions?
I wouldn't say frustrating, I would say sometimes intimidating. Because as I said, I'm surrounded by, I very, very much respect these people, but they are literally the smartest and most competent people of the country. I really had to learn how to interact with them because I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want to be slow, let's say. So thankfully, my brain can work very fast. So I'm really grateful for that.
Our next guest is Ivett Angyal. She brings experience from multiple industries, and she is currently serving as operations lead for the European Digital Innovation Hubs at the EIT Digital. She supports digital innovation and entrepreneurship across Europe by managing key processes, reporting KPIs, ensuring impactful results. In 2018, Ivett co-founded and served as a CEO of a tech startup, a marketplace for pre-loved products. Ivett, welcome to the Recursive podcast.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Can you maybe tell me a bit more about your current position as responsible for the operations at the European Digital Innovation Hubs? And what are the European Digital Innovation Hubs? I'm not sure that everyone is familiar with the structure. So maybe you can say a bit more about the mandate and what is the purpose of the hubs.
Yeah. So basically, I work for EIT Digital as the operations lead for the EDIs and or EDIHs, named in another way. So the European Digital Innovation Hubs are basically an initiative by the European Commission. They created more than 150 hubs across Europe, and the aim of this initiative is to help the digitalization of the SMEs and the public sector organizations. And it's part of the Digital Decade vision or mission, which is basically to have at least like 90% of European SMEs and public sector organizations to reach a basic digital maturity and also to like create new European value chains. So these hubs are actually focusing on different digital technologies, and they are educating the market about it. And the EDIHs has 4 building blocks. So the test before invest, the access to finance, the skills and trainings, and also ecosystem and networking. So basically all the type of events. And within this framework, the hubs are kind of like, most of them are like big consortia. So the consortia can be part of like, can have like 5 to 10, even 15 partners. In it. So like from academia to agile regional agencies and to like organizations such as EIT Digital. So for example, in Hungary, there are 5 different EDIHs, one focusing on AI, one focusing on agriculture, one focusing on high performance computing, one focusing on data, and the Digital Tech EDIH, which is led by us, EIT Digital. So, or EDIH is focused on 5 different topics: blockchain, fintech, education tech, cybersecurity, and business development.
Okay, that's very complex.
I know. And I'm the operations lead of the EDIs, which means that EIT Digital not only participates in this Hungarian one as a coordinator, but we are partners in several different EDIHs across Europe. So I'm overseeing all of them in Sweden, Finland, the Netherlands, and Spain.
So practically in your day-to-day business, when you go to work, what do you do?
Well, that's very diverse because the first 1.5 years was very challenging because we had to figure out the structure and the aspects of working together. So we have, like in the Hungarian consortia, I'm talking about the Hungarian consortia, we have 11 partners, big universities and smaller agencies, and we had to figure out how to work as a quasi-consulting firm. Even we are not a consulting firm, and even we are coordinators, we don't have the right to say one organization's employees to do this or that because we are not in that position. So one of the most important aspects of the work was to to create a management structure which ensures that we can deliver the KPIs in time, which are quite high. So, but we are performing very well. So we almost
Can
train.
you give us an example maybe of the KPIs that you're measured against? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically we have trained more than 2,000 people within this framework and a lot of SMEs in it. And basically we also have this peer-to-peer advisory consulting services. So, so some of our experts are actually sitting down with a given company and they are figuring out, okay, how could they optimize their operations or marketing or technological infrastructure in order to be more efficient than competitive as well, and then and then maybe based on that, once they have this knowledge and once the CEO of the company has the knowledge, maybe they define the need of like a specific training for that specific company as well. So we do like vice versa. So we have default trainings every day almost, and we are running those, and we also have these consulting services that can create additional trainings. So yeah, I'm mostly in the management.
I'm actually curious if there is also an opportunity here for technology providers, for startups who are from the region, which maybe are targeting SMEs who can maybe help with this digitalization process or in some way, I don't know, optimize efficiency of SMEs. How do you work with the startup world?
So basically, we have a work package specified on startup scale-ups, which is the work package 3, business development. However, I must say that in this framework, in this scheme, only companies with already existing entities can apply. So we can't really help companies without an entity because it works under the state aid and the EU funding. So basically, without that, we can't really help companies from in the idea stage. However, we definitely can help companies that already have something, and we can even help them with like international market entry. We work together with Enterprise Europe Network as a stakeholder, with some embassies, and we also have these cross-study collaborations across Europe. So, for example, this June, we had a big access to finance event in Helsinki, together with the fair EDIH, which is the AI EDI in Finland. And we are part of that as EIT Digital. So what we did is basically we had like a 3-hour long access to finance, and the end of the workshop was actually a panel discussion, and there we involved a venture capitalist, an angel investor, a crowdfunding platform CEO who was from actually Hungary, one of the clients of Digital Tech EDIH, and we involved the Enterprise Europe Network talking about the European possibilities and opportunities, and someone from the Finnish government who was talking about especially the governmental aspect and governmental grants and all these type of things that are available for the startups. So we had more than 30 companies on the spot, and they were all like super grateful. They all had great feedback, like how much these different aspects of funding and how it helped them. And actually we have some success stories coming from that, because there were some match made there basically.
How is Central and Eastern Europe performing in terms of digital transformation from the perspective of the European digital innovation hubs?
So basically, there is a European scoreboard, something like that, and it lists the innovators across Europe. So there are like the innovator leaders, who are the Nordics and the Netherlands. So that's why, for example, this access to finance event was very good from the Hungarian perspective, because we have something to learn from the Nordics, because they are great innovators. The schemes and the framework is working there very well. There are the strong innovators, mostly Western European countries such as France, and there are the moderate innovators, which is mostly Central Eastern European and the southern countries in Europe, and there are the emerging innovators, mostly from the Balkan. So basically. I think at the moment there is some sort of awareness in the European market and in terms of the SMEs that actually digitalization and innovation is needed, and innovation is always very well supported in times when the change is like very constant, and I think we are kind of living in a turbulent times. However, that's for sure that, for example, on the other hand, the inflation that is like hitting us, it's a little bit slowing down that aspect because innovation needs funding and financing. But all in all, I must say that there is an awareness, there is a momentum for innovation, of course, and I think the stakes are high because at the moment, the stakes are high because basically we either become, as Europe, as a continent, kind of like a museum of technology on the global on the global field, or we keep up with the US and China when it comes to digitalization and innovation. So that's why the stakes are high. That's why there are a lot of European initiatives across Europe. For example, the EDIHs. So basically, I would encourage everyone, every company owner, to take part in these, to get the most out of it, and learn and use the infrastructure that these programs and the partners of these programs are providing for you. Because at this point, maybe you don't feel the need as an SME owner or a company owner that you need to immediately act on something, but within 1 year you might feel it because times are changing so fast due to digitalization and the emerging technologies. That's my opinion.
And I can imagine that the part of the GDP being created in SMEs is not to underestimate. Okay.
99% of European companies are SMEs. They are the employers of the majority of European people. They are the backbone of the European economy. And it's true in case of each country. So that's why the stakes are high, because it does matter if they perform well or they not. And yes, it's everyone's best interest to support this vision and mission, I think.
I wonder also, because you're working directly with the management of SMEs, how do they view digital transformation? Is it something which is more like a vitamin, or is it already a medicine? Is it a nice to have?
Yeah, I understand. Okay. So I think it's very different in case of the SMEs. So there are some digitally more mature SMEs, they definitely understand. Or let's pick the example of e-commerce companies. So they already feel the presence of like Chinese giants such as Temu, because they are taking big part of their revenue. So there are some specific companies that definitely need and already know and already aware and goes ahead. But there are a lot of SMEs that are just trying to survive, especially in this environment, which is, like the big inflation is definitely hitting the companies as well. So it also affects the relationship with money and the value of money, because what is money today will be something different tomorrow. I mean, you might have to divide by 2 the value of the euro, for example. I mean, of course, there are some countries that are affected more by this inflation, but in this environment, companies many times tend to focus on surviving and on the present value. So they don't always think ahead. But those e-commerce companies and those digitally more mature companies, they already understand and they already go ahead. And basically, that's the easiest for us to reach in our first trials there.
I wonder which are the biggest hurdles that stand in the way of digital transformation for SMEs. Is it more a question of mindset? Is it the economic situation?
It can be both, yeah, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Or is it the skill set and people and talent?
Yeah, and also maybe financing as well, because many times when you decide to actually digitalize your operations or your company, it means that you have to invest in new infrastructure, you have to invest in softwares. So sometimes there is a lack of funding behind this decision making. So they are waiting for the funds to arrive, they are waiting for some grants to appear, but sometimes they are also disencouraged by these grants because they are so administrative, they are so bureaucratic, and it's very hard to access them. So yeah.
But
It's a
maybe
very complex
also
issue.
you serving as a binding lead between the institutions and the private sector can maybe influence also the
Yeah.
bureaucratic part and the administrative part of such financing programs.
Yes, actually, there will be EDIH summit in 3 weeks in Brussels. So definitely we can share our experiences with the decision makers and of course policymakers. So yeah, there are always very fruitful and interesting discussions, and I think we are all in the learning curve together. So the intention is very good. The intention is supported. And I think what we need to figure out is how to act fast at this point, because that's a key factor to success.
Speaking of success, I wonder, is there already a success story that you're proud about that you want to maybe share a bit more about?
Well, we actually, in the EDIH framework, we actually helped a company that just started to work on these paddle fields. And we actually helped them basically from scratch to build up their company. And now they have more than 16 paddle fields across Budapest, and they are growing. And basically, this probably wouldn't have happened without the professional need that they got from the business development work package experts.
I find it curious because you yourself have the experience of being a founder, of someone who has run a business. I mean, I'm actually curious. You come from an entrepreneurial family.
Yes.
Yourself, yes?
Yes.
And I guess it only seemed logical for you that you're going to be a founder at some point as well. Still, how did the way that you grew up help you be a founder later on?
Well, exactly as you said, that I had this pattern in front of me. Like I've seen my mother building a company, I've seen my father building a company. So basically, I didn't have any idea of how to be an employee. And that's why, of course, at the beginning of my career, I started to work for big corporates. I was a marketing trainee, I was a business development trainee, and I did all sorts of things ever since, I think, before university. So I really, really tried myself. But at some point, I was thinking when I was writing my thesis, my bachelor thesis, that, okay, why don't I just create something, try to create something, like something innovative? And I was really interested in big data. I know it sounds very geek, but yeah, I was. And it was 2013, so it was not as a big thing as it is today, but it started to become a big thing. And I wanted to learn more about these self-learning machines, which is AI. So basically, that was the base of my bachelor thesis. So that's how I came up with the idea of, first, it was more like the idea of a B2B software, which is helping companies to categorize their products, fashion companies, their products in a way that can encourage sustainable behavior in the consumers. But then later on, when I went to London, I did my master's there, and I participated in the startup seminars and startup studios by City Ventures. I pivoted into the idea of a sustainable marketplace, and then combine it, like how to trigger sustainable behavior. And it was already 2015-16 in London, and I mean, secondhand was already a big thing in London. Every corner had like a cool vintage thrift shop, or and also the Depop, which was back then the most like an emerging application for this type of transactions between users was coming up. So that's how I ended up with the idea of Liverope, which then, 2 years later, became a reality because I actually managed to raise the first round of funds. So I started to work on it, and it was a great experience, and I really loved that experience.
What did you learn about encouraging sustainable behavior in consumers? Which are the, I guess, the most critical levers in this process?
So back then, I can talk about fashion because this application was focusing on the fashion industry. Back then, we were launching this application back in 2018, and secondhand was not a thing in Hungary. So basically, especially investors were not understanding at the beginning, like, why do I want to wear the trouser of another guy? Like,
I think it was considered even shameful.
Exactly.
Something that
It's
you would
something
be ashamed of because you
yeah.
can't afford new clothes or something like this. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's like super. That's the Eastern mindset, and the Western mindset was so different already. And we had to explain, but come on, this is already a trend in Western Europe. You have to understand that maybe it's not going to be men who's going to use this application more, but women, because let's speak about one of the big fashion giants. They have a new set of outfits every week in the shops.
Yeah.
So basically, there are a lot of women who actually go and you know, like, they are shopping every week. So they have a lot of things in their closet that they don't use, or, you know, they just bought it for fun or for whatever reason. But then at least they can sell it if they don't use it after, I don't know, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, because the chances that they're not going to use it later is very big. So we had to explain this aspect to men, and it was a very interesting process. Then we launched the application, and people didn't understand, okay, but we have a lot of used English clothing shops in Budapest. Why would you need an application for that? And we had to explain, like, okay, this is different because, you know, the English used clothing workshop is a very shops are very good thing, but you know what you thrift on this application, it's a little bit different. So we started a campaign with influencers, and it was actually like a big success because the influencers were like raising awareness around sustainability, that fashion industry is one of the most polluting, and like, okay, but apart from that, you can buy my wardrobe now here. So we were estimating to have like 500 downloads within 6 months, and within 5 minutes we had 15,000 downloads, and the whole MVP, which was really like a minimum viable product, collapsed. So
when you're not prepared for
Exactly.
that huge of a success, and it's a great story.
Our expectations were super low. So yeah, then we had to, you know, rethink the application, and we had these interviews with our customers, and we tried to understand, okay, how to do it better. And then, of course, we kept going with the developments, and it was a very, very interesting process. We even worked with charity organizations, like big charity organizations. We organized big fairs. The fairs were visited by more than 1,000 people. So we had this big queue of people, like queuing for from 12 to 7 p.m. It was crazy for me to see that. And we also had pop-up stores in the city, in the heart of the cities. So basically, we got a lot of opportunities and chances, and it was a very great journey. But then, end of 2022, I decided to not pursue this career path due to several reasons. But it's a different podcast.
Although I'd be curious to find out how you managed this transition. But before we go there, I still want to ask you, what often we learn more from failures than from successes. In this case, it was in the beginning a fail to start because you were too successful. So I wonder which were the most important lessons from that experience, you know, having an MVP that completely collapses and you're not prepared for
the success.
That much of attraction.
Yeah. It was. I did this. I was working on this company for more than 5 years. So basically, it took a lot of time. It was a big roller coaster, and as an entrepreneur and as a founder, especially, you face rejection every day. You face angry customers every day. You face different types of challenges that you didn't think of can exist in life, and then and the end of the day, as a founder and especially as a CEO of a company, no matter how big is that company, but you have some sort of loneliness in that role because you can't really share everything with your people because your role and your most important role is to motivate them to go on.
Yeah.
So it really taught me to be resilient, and it really taught me to be humble, and I know how to put my ego aside, which is, I think, very important in my current job as well. And I'm rarely taking things personally because I know that if I do, then I wouldn't be able to be professional in many situations, and it gives me a lot of confidence because I let myself to be genuine and I let myself to be me, and I have the knowledge that I know I can make whatever I want to make to happen, and it doesn't matter if I fail because there is life after that, and there are solutions how to navigate situations, and nothing means that you actually failed because if you face the challenges, no matter what's the end, you're gonna find peace, wisdom, and power, especially over your mind in that. And I actually got very close to Eastern philosophy, like Buddhism, which I find particularly good if you pursue the path of an entrepreneur. And I almost meditate every day since then, so it gives me like a peace of mind every day. And just imagine in my current position, I'm working on a daily basis with more than 100 people because this consortium of 11 partners have a lot of people in it. And I have to say that I'm working with the smartest and most competent people of the country. So those people that work in this consortium are among them. So I have to have the type of confidence that I can be in the leaders team and actually, not be intimidated by their knowledge, by their level of competence. So I think without that path behind me, probably I wouldn't be able to stand so firm in what I'm doing right now. And of course, there are a lot of challenges in this current position as well, but I think this resilience is giving me.
I speak often, and especially with women, about imposter syndrome, and I think for whatever reason, especially women have quite often the feeling that they're not good enough. So if they are offered an opportunity or they see an opportunity in front of them, I think the first question will be, am I good enough for it? Which is actually, making me angry quite often, because I don't think that many men are asking themselves the same question. So we are often doubting ourselves much more than those around us, our managers, our peers, our investors. It's us that we are our strongest critics. So I wonder, how did you overcome this? Was it a sudden shift in your thinking? Or was it something that you pursued step by step or happened step by step? Because you sound as someone who has overcome this, who has reflected on the question, maybe even suffered from it in the past, but now you are coming here with a renewed confidence that helps you be better even in your current position where you're not the CEO anymore, although we're going to talk about, the current challenges even more. Yeah, so tell me.
Well, I definitely hit rock bottom with the entrepreneur journey and what I did. So there were situations when I had not more than 10 euros on my bank account, and I was facing a former friend who was, I would say, trying to push me, to the corner because that person was asking for a lot of money, which was not yet there because we still had to work for that money and we still had to work on that company. So when you face this type of situations and you manage to overcome, you manage to solve it, you manage to still pay for the people that create value for you, you manage to still stand still in that type of storms, where you are ready to lose your mind, but you still manage to stand still firm, and you manage to step up for your team that's actually there for you. Then you start to think that, okay, what I would be shameful from this point, because I don't have anything to be ashamed of, because at this point I proven myself a level of resilience, a level of, I would say, even stubbornness, that I can, if I put my mind into something, I can do it. And when I closed the company, it was not necessarily because it completely failed. It was because I decided that I don't want to do it anymore. So it was a conscious decision on my end due to several factors that were there, and I didn't want to pursue that and didn't want to live in that situation. It was a super conscious decision. It took me 6 months to take that decision. Of course, there was a big grieving in that 6 months when I realized that, okay, I really want to make this decision, and I will make this decision. And yeah,
I think this grief is there also for founders and entrepreneurs who successfully exited their companies, which usually, should be one of the best moments in your entrepreneurial career. And at the same time, every time when I speak to an exited founder, you see a level of depression or
what's next?
sadness, because they lose part of their identity. They have to say goodbye to a big part of their life. Often they would spend more time with their company than with their families and their loved ones. So I guess however you have to separate with your business, it's going to be difficult for an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
How long did you grieve?
Sorry, huh?
How long did you grieve?
It took me a while.
Yeah.
So when I realized that I probably don't want to continue this career path, from that point, it took me 6 months to admit it to the investors as well. And after that, maybe one more extra year to completely let that part of my identity go that was based on what I was doing. So,
which was more difficult, admitting it to yourself or having the hard conversation with the investors, with your shareholders?
Well, they've seen how hard I was working. They've seen how hard I was fighting, and it was not that hard because I tried till the last drop of blood. So in that sense, it was not that hard because it was a process. So actually, I think the hardest conversation I had was with myself.
With yourself.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking that probably there are founders out there who are afraid of having this conversation with their investors. Sometimes, I don't know, we encourage the behavior in entrepreneurship, which is being relentless, trying every option. But I don't think that we teach entrepreneurs when is it time to stop. When is it time to even try something else?
Exactly.
We don't really talk about it, and there are not many founders who are ready to talk about it because they still consider it as something that they don't want to, or I don't know, maybe even ashamed of. We don't speak enough about these periods, and I wouldn't necessarily call it failure. I mean, I think what you've done, being so authentic, being so honest, being true to yourself, should be considered success, and it should be rewarded.
And I always think that I gave a job to a lot of people.
You did.
I paid a lot of taxes. I created a product that people used. We created an impact with that. We, thanks to us, more than 10,000 second-hand clothes found a new owner. We donated to charity with our fairs and the help of influencers. We educated the market. we created a good base for the bigger companies to come. So and we had several movements, like we created this Humans of Livro movement, which was especially during COVID that we organized these live talks with psychologists talking about mental health, the body image. So because we said that sustainability is not only about your consumers' decision, like your decisions in consuming, but also about the relationship with yourself. Because our philosophy was that if we would like to create a healthy globe, a healthy population on Earth, then it starts with the individual. So first you have to face yourself, ask yourself the question, work on yourself, and love yourself. Because of course, not in a narcissistic way, but in an empathetic way, which gives you a safe place to grow and thrive. And once more and more healthy individuals walk on Earth, it creates healthy societies. Societies with less crime, societies with less frustration, societies with less accident that happens because of the fights of the egos on the streets. And then, we sooner or later, these societies, these communities are actually reaching each other. So that's how the ripple effect of working on yourself can have a real, make a real difference in the world. So that was our philosophy behind this movement, and we had great speakers, and there were live talks when even 2,500 people joined us. Imagine on Instagram, 2,500 people were listening to the psychologists we invited to talk about to work on yourself, to love your body, to reflect on yourself, and this was a great time.
And these are also KPIs that need to be considered, I think, in the contribution of a business.
Exactly, and that's why I say that, I failed economically, let's say, because I didn't pursue follow-on investments at the point after I felt like I tried everything. But on many terms, I feel like I succeeded. I didn't think that way, of course, like a year ago if you would have asked me. But since then I had the time to reflect on that and to not take the credit away from myself and from the team that I worked with, because I had amazing people in my team.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that so honestly here. I think it is a very valid position to have. I also have a failed venture. It was a long time ago. At 27, I decided that I need to do something more risky. I thought my life would develop in a different way. And at 27, where I was still independent, I didn't have kids or family, I thought, okay, if I'm going to try it, I'm going to try it now. Or I should try it now. And it failed. And I remember at some point I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who was a bit more brutal. And he just wrote that in a chat, but you failed. And I had a hard time, reading this sentence. It just, my first reaction was, but it wasn't my fault. And then I thought, okay, let's maybe take a second look and a second chance to think about it. To what extent was it my responsibility, and how embracing the responsibility is going to make me a better person, is going to make me wiser. Yeah. And I started thinking about the things that actually did depend on me, even if it was because of my co-founders and, all the reasons that I had in my head. And I think this change of mindset, coming out of the victimhood.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah.
Was extremely important at this
and the long journey for me as well.
Yes.
Yeah, the victimhood. Yeah, it was.
And in the end, this experience actually became a topic or a reason for my confidence, and less, a reason for me to be ashamed of, or not be able to face a sentence like, well, you failed.
I was just, while you were telling me this, I was thinking that there is power in failure. And why? Because if you take ownership over the failure, then you find the wisdom, then you find the strength, then you find the power, then you find the peace of mind.
Yeah.
And that will help you to be more genuine, more authentic, and say, no, you don't do this with me. Because it takes you out of the victimhood mentality. It puts you even extreme ownership, and that, you know, in that position you have well-defined boundaries, but you also have respect for yourself and for others, so you can collaborate in a very healthy manner with your environment, but also not put yourself under anyone or any type of mind games.
Yeah, I wonder also how your sense for purpose changed over time. I can maybe put my development in 3 stages. I would say when I was younger, I was rather ambitious. So my purpose was to be successful. You know, I really wanted to be a grown-up, and I wanted to be independent, and I wanted to be successful, and I had this vision of me, you know, how do I dress, how do I look when I grow up. Afterwards, I guess I started thinking, okay, maybe I should change it to my purpose should be, you know, being happy. And then I thought, but actually looking back now over time, I learned the most from the situations where I wasn't happy. So if I have to put it in words nowadays, my purpose in life is actually to learn and to become wise, you know, collect as many as possible experiences and internalize them, reflect on them, and somehow come out as a wiser person out of them. So I wonder how your change or your transition in the way that you perceive the purpose of life or the definition of success changed over time after this experience.
Very good question. Probably that's one of the reasons I said that I started to learn about Eastern philosophy, because I knew that I was definitely the same as you. Like, I was thinking I have to dress certain way, I have to be successful, I have to do this, I have to be friends with this and that, and you know, like, and it completely changed, to be honest, because right now my first priority is to feel free. And to feel free is to be genuine, is to not overthink things, it's to have a peace of mind, have the ability to slow down, have the ability to reflect. And no matter what life throws at me, because I don't want to, you know, feed myself the lie that, okay, if I do this and that, I will not face hardships. Probably I will, because I'm not a perfect being. And because I'm not a perfect being, probably not all situations in my life will be perfect. But no matter what happens, I'm able to face it, I'm able to manage it, I'm able to solve it, and I'm able to be free in that process. And that's my purpose now, to work on that on a personal level. That's my purpose now, to work on that on every aspect of my life. And yeah, on a professional level, I think currently I have a big purpose, and thankfully I feel very useful every day, because supporting the vision of the competitiveness of Europe, I mean, it's a big mission, you know. So being part of that.
No pressure.
No pressure.
It's like
it's not gonna fail.
Especially now after the Mario Draghi's report, I think it became an even more politicized topic. So no pressure.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I wonder. Can you maybe walk me through the process of reinventing yourself after you decided that you're going to close the company? And I don't know, you changed your definition of success in the meantime. Freedom became an important value for you in every aspect. You know, being authentic became an important value for you. How did you reinvent yourself, and why did you decide to work for the European institutions?
Well, it was, I wouldn't say a coincidence, but I saw the position on LinkedIn, and I was thinking that it sounds good. I mean, sounds challenging enough and sounds interesting enough, so why don't I try to apply for that? And basically that was the process. I saw this advertisement on LinkedIn, and I was like, okay, why not?
Why not?
Why not? And at the beginning, I remember it was a very different environment that I'm used to. I had to learn how to dress differently in that environment, for example, just to say a very small thing. Because, when you are building a fashion tech startup, your identity is like being super fashionable and, like wearing weird stuff even. And, the weirder, the better. But in this environment, the more conservative, the better. So I had to learn this. And it was an interesting process as well, why I was buying myself new clothing. And I must admit, actually, I like it, to be honest. I like these blazers, I like the trousers.
Interesting. It's great.
It is an important aspect. I'm a woman. Come on.
I mean, if we have to be honest, I was recently looking at some kind of like a reel on Instagram that was making fun of, you men, you think that we're dressing for you. Actually, there's so many other different aspects, like, who am I meeting with today? What time of the month is it now? What time of the year? My makeup, my purse, my shoes.
Yeah, exactly. And, I also have to simplify that aspect as well, because, so that's why the more conservative, the better. So
it's a very complex process, actually, of dressing a woman.
Exactly. And
every morning we go through, I don't know, a multi-level factor decision.
Yeah, and I'm coming from fashion,
today.
So it's a very
it's even more complex for you. Okay, good.
Yeah, so,
good. But apart from the fashion choices that you had to make, I guess you were confronted by a completely different culture.
Yes, of course. Of course. So,
wasn't it frustrating for you?
Well,
in the beginning?
No, I wouldn't say frustrating. I would say sometimes intimidating because as I said, I'm surrounded by. I very, very much respect these people. But they are literally the smartest and most competent people of the country. So, I really had to learn how to interact with them because, I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want to be slow, let's say. So thankfully, my brain can work very fast. So I'm really grateful for that every day.
Is there a mantra that you're telling yourself whenever you feel intimidated by, I don't know, people that you're going to work with or someone that you're meeting with because they are, I don't know, much more competent, they have a better education, or they are higher in the status? I don't know.
Yeah, even there are some songs that I'm listening to. So there are some mantra songs that, it's created by a lady. And she's actually helping women to have these songs. And actually, they're very cool because it's kind of like rap, kind of like singing.
Nice.
And it's like mantras that believe in your stuff and like super, super interesting. I will share it with you after.
That would be great. We can actually link it. What is the name of the lady?
Well, I always forget her name, but I will tell you.
Good. You will give us the link. Good. Because I'm thinking that, many women will actually relate to what we're saying here. I wonder also, how did your family, did your social circle react to the decision that you're going away from entrepreneurship and you're going into more of a public sector, right? Is it? Yeah, it is the public sector,
Part of. I have a tendency that I'm now really sharing with my parents what I'm doing because they are a little bit older, so they were already lost at the startup. Like what I'm doing, she's working on something. So
I remember, talking to my father at some point, and he would ask me, or I actually asked him, do you know what is a startup? And he said, well, something like an antipasti, I guess, or something like that.
So yeah, exactly. So they were just, I think I didn't really let them know about the conflicts that I went through because I respect their
peace of mind.
Peace of mind, yeah. And I didn't want to put my my heavy stuff on them. So that's why I didn't really share what I was going through. They were just seeing that, okay, she's now really well. So sometimes they were asking me what's my plan, but they always had this tendency to trust me and trust my decisions ever since I was a kid.
Okay.
So,
but what about your friends? I mean, I can imagine that many of them are in the startup world. They are startuppers themselves.
Yeah.
And somehow in our world, I believe that we have this weird hierarchy of, being a founder is super cool, being in a public center, oh, it's not cool at all. So how did your friends react to your decision?
Well, I happen to be very lucky in that regard because I have people who also work on themselves and also go to therapy and figure out life, not by putting that frustration onto others, but like taking extreme ownership. So basically, they were happy because they seen that my mental health was like declining in this end of the process. So they were happy that I embraced a different path and I'm letting this like season go, let's say. And we were talking a lot about it, that maybe later, 5-10 years later, when I feel like I want to do an SME or I have an idea, I can still do it. Like nothing really can stop me at that point if I really want to pursue that. So nothing is lost in that regard. So yeah, my friends, they all prioritize that we are all happy and doing well in life. So thankfully, this is this in this regard, I'm very lucky.
And what is the thing that makes you eager to wake up and get out of bed in the morning now in your position? What is the thing that fulfills you the most or makes you happiest?
It's also a good question. Actually, I feel like once I started to work at this organization, and I'm super grateful for the people that I work with, because I have to tell that I have very, very, very good colleagues. So basically, when I wake up, I never ever feel frustrated, or I never ever had a knot in my stomach, and I'm always actually grateful. Like I always start my day with a grateful, a prayer in which I'm like
gratitude
saying,
prayer.
Gratitude prayer
in the morning. So because I know that people quite often do it in the evening, but anyway, that's a question of protocol.
Morning,
you do it in the morning. Oh, okay.
It's a very short one, like 1 minute, but I'm always saying thank you because currently I feel like I'm in the right environment to grow. And currently, as I said, this mission to help the European economy to perform better while through the digitalization of the companies and public sector organizations, it's a big challenge. It's a big thing, and sometimes I'm working more than 8 hours, but I don't feel it. So that's why I was sometimes a little bit stuck with these 10-12 hours of working days, because I was just like so enthusiastic about what I'm doing. I'm not taking any breaks, and I found myself working 10-12 hours a day. Of course, this also has to be a little bit adjusted to healthier boundaries, and I'm working on it right now. But I really feel that I'm contributing to build a better world. And I used to be the person that really wanted to save the world, like everyone. It doesn't matter who it is. I wanted to, I was like carrying a big bag and I wanted to put everyone in it and like save them. Okay, they have to. I was like really, really like this about it. And I let that go. And I was even writing a blog about self-development while I was a startup founder, because I really genuinely wanted to contribute to people's life and how to help them to lead a more harmonious life. And I let it go. I understood that I cannot save everyone, and maybe they don't want to be saved. So it's maybe my life would be easier if I don't try to do it. And currently, I just, I contribute where I can. So even with my colleagues, I sometimes have these personal conversations, and we talk about Eastern philosophy, we talk about meditation, we talk about we talk about neuroscience, for example, because I'm super interested in neuroscience and the latest findings.
Yeah.
And I was in Warsaw this summer at the EU Leadership Academy. I was one of the speakers, and I met a lady there, and she told me very difficult things about her life and about her health. And we started to discuss deeper things than that, and she texted me a few weeks ago that she is cancer-free, and she took the advice that I give her about neuroscience practices, and she went to a psychologist. So she was not only working in the material aspect of the issue, but she was working on herself, and this is something that gives meaning to a person's life, because it gives meaning to work on yourself, because then you can share the knowledge, you can share what you've been through, and then maybe your thoughts might help others. And I interact with people that ask for it. So I'm not wanting to save everyone. I'm interacting with people that come to me and ask me to interact, So
Yeah, you're not a missionary in this sense.
Anymore.
I completely understand what you're saying. Personal development became an important topic for me as well at some point. I don't know, 27, 28. It's when I started my journey and had like different stages. And now I see how important are agents like you, I would call them, who are placed completely randomly in organizations, in groups, and you sometimes completely unplanned end up talking to someone who is exactly in the need of a counterpart like you. And a conversation like this can have a huge impact on their life, can completely change how they think about things, or can give them comfort in a moment where it was very critical.
Yes.
I had a couple of situations like this in the past, and it's been extremely rewarding, to see that your pain and transforming your own pain, working on your own pain, can make it easier for someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, but I can also agree with what you were saying before. I remember that from psychedelic sessions. Sometimes, shamans would, train you or would give you some tips of how do you deal with topics which are just overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, a war in Ukraine. I remember I had a ceremony where I was completely stuck exactly in this topic, and it was overwhelming. And I think the best tip that they actually gave me back then is, to talk to your entities in this case, or, even to talk to yourself and be honest about the fact that, hey, this is too big for me.
Yeah.
I cannot solve it alone. This is just too alone. This is just too big for an individual.
Yeah.
And although I completely sympathize and, can suffer for others, it's not going to help anyone.
Exactly.
It just makes you feel more paralyzed, and even yourself. So sometimes we need to be also honest about the things that we cannot change.
Exactly. Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. Basically, that's why I think I changed this missionary, attitude, because I realized that I'm trying to pour from an empty cup, and it's not going to work long term, because I'm going to be, consumed in the process. So that's why I more like let life, give the flow of life, like,
and allow it to happen.
Yeah.
I think, this...
what's meant to happen will happen.
Exactly.
So that's my mantra.
I think when I was younger, I was also much more controlling, and I wanted much more to force a situation to happen exactly as I wanted it to happen. Over time, what gave me peace is allowing situations to happen, or allowing life to happen, or allowing people to come to you, to be more of the inviting certain events, situations, people, and less be forceful about how things should develop. We need to wrap up because we are over time, but I was just curious, and maybe this is how we can finish up. When you woke up in the morning, what were you grateful about? I wonder, what did you, if it's not too personal.
No.
Yeah.
My health, my family, my friends, the place where I live. I have a roof over my head. I have delicious food to eat. And I have a great job. I have great colleagues, and I can work on a mission that makes sense, and I feel useful every day. So this is something that I'm super grateful for, and also the power in my mind and in my soul that that gives me the ability to face difficult or challenging situations, and the more I'm going ahead in time, the less I lose myself in the process, and I'm grateful for that. So,
thank you. Thank you, Ivett. Thank you for this conversation.
And if you're just as passionate about innovation as we are, hit subscribe for the Recursive podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We're everywhere.